The award-winning Cinema Classics is produced by John DeSando and Johnny DiLoretto. Listen to the shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org. I'm Johnny DiLoretto.
I'm John DeSando.
This is Cinema Classics.
It sure is, boy. And this summer, one of the big films is the Star Wars story.
Solo.
Solo, a Star Wars story. Now, the elephant in the room here is Harrison Ford. I don't care who plays it.
Yeah.
So let's look at him, and I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Why hasn't Harrison Ford ever won an Oscar?
Well, he's never groveled for one. You know what I mean? He's never chosen projects, I think, that are outwardly Oscar bait material.
Okay.
He's gotten close, I think, with Mosquito Coast, projects like that. Maybe Witness.
Yeah, I think that's a good choice.
But, you know, he has never really just taken on those roles that, you know, they show. There's nothing like, he doesn't break down. He doesn't have an emotional breakdown.
Right. Yeah.
He doesn't. He's not, you know, an incorrigible a-hole at the beginning of a movie, and then a really decent human being at the end of the movie. I guess you could argue that regarding Henry it gets as close to that as you can. But just the projects themselves just aren't Oscar bait material.
He was once was asked, was commented on that he had never been in an Oscar-winning movie.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and he said, "I think I'll be all right." So,
yeah, see, that's interesting, and that gets at essentially the Harrison Ford on-screen persona. Why we enjoy these movies, why we keep coming back to them, and what he's best at.
Well, you know, the moment for me, the most memorable moment of his that encapsulated that kind of carefree attitude that he has, the wisecracking guy, was in Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back.
Mm-hmm.
And what interests me about his response to Princess Leia, when she says, "I love you,"
and
he says, "I know."
I know.
And he made that line.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be, "I love you too."
And that line could go wrong in so many different ways if read by the wrong person, or with the right or the wrong intonation or inflection. But he really that, you know, when you look at Harrison Ford in his best parts, he gets a lot of mileage from very little overdoing it. Like, he doesn't overdo his expressions. He doesn't overdo the emotions.
Yeah.
You know, there's a great moment in, I think it's the first Indiana Jones movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark, where near the end of the movie, he's pretty battered up, bruised and battered, and him and Karen Allen are on that ship, and they're in the cabin together, and he sort of goes into this little childish thing where he wants her to kiss his boo-boos, you know, and he kind of softens for a moment, and he's just this, you know, it's a great moment for somebody so rugged, you know, that playfulness.
Yeah.
So here's the interesting thing for me. You know, growing up, I don't think I appreciated Harrison Ford, except unless he was in those roles like Indiana Jones or Han Solo. As I got older, I learned to appreciate him, and I can go back and look at those movies and see how great he really was. Something really interesting, though, happens for me right around the time of The Fugitive. So, as you know, Alec Baldwin was coming up right at that time, and he had made The Hunt for the Red October, and it was a huge hit. And then Alec Baldwin said, "I don't want to be typecast in these parts," right? So Alec Baldwin goes off and makes some of the worst choices in movie history, while Harrison Ford starts taking up this young up-and-comer scrap, and he makes The Fugitive, which Alec Baldwin turned down.
Right.
Turned out to be a huge hit. But then he takes on the Jack Ryan part.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I've just never really liked those movies. And I think Harrison Ford starts to get very boring on screen. Air Force One, I think that's a drag. I don't think he's interesting in it. I don't. He seems to be that. That's where I think he starts to get kind of bored with stardom.
Okay, and if you look at his filmography, there's no reason he shouldn't be bored. There are repetitions all throughout. Yet there are attempts to kind of vary it a little bit, like the witness role.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
but that
there
came
are times.
before.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
there are in his career. If you
Yes.
look at his whole filmography, I can see him groping for something just a little bit more substantial or a little bit different.
Right, which is I think what the Mosquito Coast is. Right?
Oh, without question. Yeah.
I think he's working with Peter Weir there again. I'm not
Yes,
sure.
right. Very
And,
good. Yeah.
But
Australian.
that premise is different. He's a father trying to make
Yeah.
a go of it with his family. It's that's about as out there as it gets for him.
Well, and your choice is excellent because he says Mosquito Coast was his favorite film.
See,
And
he should have taken more chances as an actor.
now, and he loved Witness so much because he was able to build stuff because he's a master carpenter.
Yeah, right.
You know,
that's
so
right.
when he can do that, and very much like Mosquito Coast, when it calls upon him to use his talents, his native talents, he does that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it appears to me he's looking for something, and yet at the same time he's coming back to what he has had, which is natural.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't have two homes, not one, but two homes in Wyoming.
Right.
And then not two.
And that says a lot about the guy too. He's very reserved. He doesn't. His persona is a lot like his on-screen choices. Very safe.
Well, he has tried
So-
comedy, hasn't he? I mean, would you consider he's an anchorman? Is he comic?
Anchorman. He's not an anchorman.
Anchorman 2.
Oh, I didn't see that movie.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
if he is in there, that must be a cameo.
Yes, yeah.
The closest thing I think he gets to comedy-wise is Working Girl.
Yeah, and
Melanie Griffith
yeah,
and Sigourney
you know
Weaver.
something? When they were filming that, they decided it was a comedy. And they didn't know that for sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that it was. Mike Nichols is sophisticated.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. It's one of my favorite films, and his part in there is fairly straight as a business guy.
Yeah.
Who romances Melanie Griffith. But yeah, that's a good choice. But I don't know any other. I can't think.
Yeah,
How
I'd
about
have to
Cowboys
think
and
about it.
Aliens? He's just.
Yeah, see, by that point, he's doing that Clint Eastwood older guy thing, calling attention to his age, sort of being self-deprecating. And that's interesting. So right after Indiana Jones and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which is widely, panned. Everybody hates that movie. I enjoyed it because, for me, it was the first time I saw Harrison Ford having fun again on screen in like 25 years. So I was happy to see him back. Happy to see him back in Blade Runner.
Well, yeah.
Again, he lends a. He's just got that lived-in, rugged quality that's so rare on screen these days.
Hey, remember
He's
him?
a joy to watch.
in Apocalypse Now?
Yeah,
Can you believe
and
that?
that was after Star Wars.
Isn't that interesting? Yes. I mean, that was a minor role.
I think at the time, because that movie had such a long production history, that probably Star Wars was just kind of, really killing it at the box office while he probably got
Yes.
cast in that part.
Yes, I love that. Some actors come and go, but Ford is continuing, and perhaps emblematic of that is the fact that both his jacket and his hat are in the Smithsonian from Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Isn't that something that an actor can have that longevity? His favorite actor was Gregory Peck, and let me get this. I just find it interesting as to who they consider consider when they his two favorite actors,
Yeah.
Gregory Peck and Gary Cooper.
Wow. That makes perfect sense. I mean, he really is a sort of continuation of that
Masculine.
caliber of star.
Yes.
Neither one of those guys Biggie Motors.
Right.
You know, Gregory Peck. This is interesting too. Gregory Peck, when he started out, like if you think about Gregory Peck and Duel in the Sun, he is he is a lot more expressive and a lot more sort of rangy and kind of unpredictable than he is come many years later in movies like Cape Fear and To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
So in some ways you could see
Oh yeah.
that same trajectory for Ford, right?
Yep.
He starts out much more expressive and playful, ends up sort of more doggedly stabilized.
Yeah. What more stolid?
Yeah.
More contemplative, more serious, and I think that at best evidence is in the newest Blade Runner,
Mm-hmm.
where he's kind of world weary,
Yeah.
and he has moved far away from Han Solo.
Right. Oh, and you know what? Actually, that was the best part of The Force Awakens. You know, a few years ago when they rebooted Star Wars, Harrison Ford as Han Solo was, for me, the biggest joy in that movie. Like watching, and spoiler alert, tune out if you haven't seen The Force Awakens by this point. They kill him off. And that was really the dumbest thing they could have done.
It's right, because this guy is not dying. And to get back to one of our other topics, I found a film for which, a comedy, for which you may or may not think he fits, Expendables 3.
Oh yeah, he pops in. Yeah, that's again why I like him better in his older age now, is because to show up, Harrison Ford still considered a big star.
Oh yes.
Quality guy that takes on quality projects,
Right.
doesn't really usually slum it.
Yes.
So for him to kind of pop up in a cameo in the Expendables 3 of all things, which is Stallone's kind of goofball sea-level throwback
Yes.
movie.
Yes.
I just thought that was fun. Yeah, he's a good presence. He's a great presence on screen. You know what does bother me about him though?
What?
Every time you see this guy, like in his private life, he's got these ridiculous earrings. You know, he's got these earrings.
It's such a disappointment.
And I don't know what, not that I care about a guy in earrings.
No, I know.
But what is Harrison Ford doing with the earrings?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense.
He's trying to live a character that he's not.
But what do you need earrings for in Wyoming?